So January is the start of a new year, and if you think about it, it's kind of weird because it's in the middle of winter. When you think about it, it doesn't really make sense. Thousands of years ago when they created the calendar, the new year actually started in March, which makes a lot more sense because it's spring and new life and start a new year. Isn't that interesting? The other thing that's interesting is that for women, we go through a cycle every single month with our bodies. Every single month, our hormones are either ramping up or ramping down, and your body is reacting as a result. So there's this idea that you might have heard of called cycle syncing, where people plan their lives around their cycle. They change their exercise routines, they plan different social events, just so they can honor their body, and you can feel your best while you're going through these different phases. And then, of course, there's that scripture in Ecclesiastes that says, "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven." I was thinking about all of these things and how it relates to planning our goals. So when you think about making goals, it doesn't make sense to try and overhaul your entire life in the dead of winter. And in fact, they've actually researched this and they have found that spring and summer are generally the easiest times of the year to make changes in your life because of warmer weather, increased sunlight, and you have higher energy levels. And where I live, winter can really disrupt your schedule. We'll often have canceled school, somebody will be sick, the days are shorter, there's just less sunlight, and it gets darker earlier. So in general, it's just harder to be productive at the same level that you would be in a long, warm summer day. Then you also throw in the after-holiday slump, which is a real thing. So your nervous system gets really ramped up because of all of the holidays and all the extra things you're doing. And so when it comes to the new year, sometimes in January, you can actually feel quite low energy. And this was me in January, and I was trying to figure this out, and I started putting all of these pieces together. Typically, if you make goals and you're having a hard time accomplishing them, you feel a lot of guilt and shame. But if you think about cyclical planning, you can plan your goals taking into account the energy you're going to have in different times of the year and plan accordingly. So January may not be the best time of the year to do your hardest challenges. If you have some really intense habit challenge you'd like to do, maybe plan it for the spring or summer when there's going to be a lot more daylight and you're going to have more energy. I reflected back on when I did a 75 hard challenge. I did a 75 hard challenge where I did all Christian habits, and I started that in August. And that is the perfect time of the year to try and do something really difficult. So knowing this information can really help you. So the long, cold winter months is a good time to give yourself a lot of grace. I don't think it's a time to not work on anything. I don't think it's an excuse to just waste time. But there's this idea in self-improvement called baseline habits. And what a baseline habit is basically the smallest amount of a habit you can do to have it still count. So typically what happens is we set our habits for ideal situations. And so what happens when you're not in ideal situations? You stop doing everything, right? But if you have baseline habits, you can still continue your habits just at a lower energy level depending on what the situation calls for. So let's say you typically go walking for 30 minutes a day. A baseline habit might be walk for 2 minutes a day. Maybe you have a habit of studying your scriptures every day. A baseline habit might be read one verse. Just something that can keep you going when your season requires a little more gentleness. But even if you're having a really hard time even keeping up baseline habits, I feel like winter is a great time to give yourself a lot of grace. One thing that's really been helping me when sometimes I can feel down about all the things I want to accomplish that I'm not able to accomplish is to focus on what I'm doing instead. Most of the time, I'm doing things that are really important. I'm getting more rest. I'm spending time with my kids, playing games, talking to my husband. I think a lot of times as moms, we get down on ourselves for the things we're not able to accomplish, and we don't really take time to sit and think about all of the things that we have accomplished, the monumental tasks we just do as part of our regular life. So I don't think you need to give yourself permission to waste time, but I think a little more gentleness is in order. Because growth can't come from a place of self-hatred and guilt. You can't shame your way into being a better person. Positive emotions lead to positive actions. So you have to look at all of the good that you're doing. And slowly, over time, you're going to be able to do some of those positive actions that you're trying to incorporate into your life. Anyway, I just wanted to hop on here and give you some encouragement if you're feeling a little frustrated about the things you haven't been able to accomplish yet this year. Maybe you had a lot of big goals in January and you haven't made a lot of progress. This is only month 2. The year is long. Enjoy this season of rest and coziness. Enjoy the season for what it is. Don't try and turn it into a really intense, productive summer month. Give yourself permission to love winter for what it is. Live in this cycle of growth. Rest, renew, grow. Rest, renew, grow. Your body does cycles every month, and you can do it too on a larger scale over the course of a year. And God also planned this world as living in cycles. So I hope you'll take some time to think about what kinds of things you can stop feeling guilty about. Take some time to recognize what you're already doing and figure out what your baseline habits are, because so much of how you feel about yourself is making sure that you're able to do the things that are important to you. And so allow smaller efforts to count in this cold, dreary season that is sometimes hard to get through. What kinds of things do you do to enjoy the winter season? I'd love to hear in the comments below, and I'll talk to you next time.